So I'm going to read something, Keegan. If you're lucky enough to be different from everybody else, don't change to be the same.
Ooh. I needed to hear that myself.
Your originality is exquisite. I'm in a good mood because becoming who I am is starting to feel good.
Okay.
I'm starting to realize and hit a stride in my life now where I'm starting to figure things out. To the last episode we talked about, because I had to make adjustments.
Okay.
I had to be accountable. I had to say to myself, Keegan, you fucking up. See, sometimes, Keegan, this is why I live in responsibility. Because it never lets me blame anybody else for where I am in life.
Okay.
Any pitfalls I ever had in my life, Keegan, was all because of something I allowed or just plain old things happening to me, because things happen. Shit happens.
Yeah, it does. It does.
Shit just happens to you.
Yeah.
It ain't nobody's fault. Shit just happen. You know, sometimes you just stump your toe. You know, shit happens. You know what I mean?
For real. Yeah, yeah.
People get into accidents. Things happen. You know what I mean? You don't intend for these things to happen, but they do. And that's just a part of, you know, being able to absorb that, man. But I'm just so glad that we're here.
Yes.
Here on the deep surface, man, and having the opportunity to come before such a beautiful audience of people who support us and really just speak our experience.
Amen.
Be honest, be open, be authentic, be who we are. You know, being human.
Yeah.
It's such a freedom in being human. It's such a, you know, it devoids all judgment from yourself. Just being free, understanding who you are, understanding where you're going, being able to capitalize on the vision that God gave you because you got clarity, Keegan. Clarity's important.
Very important.
It's important to have clarity.
Yeah.
I think it'll solve 90% of our problems, because when you don't have clarity, you confused, you're in the gray, you're going this way and that way. You know that destination is here, but you're stagnant. Self-sabotaging.
Yeah.
We've all done it,
We've
Keegan.
all done it and do it, and will do it in the future. It's part of the human nature, right?
Yeah. But before we really get going in the podcast, Keegan, we want to have a special segment today.
Okay.
The Corner.
Yeah.
Shout out to The Corner.
Yeah.
Keegan, so what we want to do on some podcasts kind of going forward is, you know, introduce you guys to The Corner and what that would provide for you. We wanted to add a different element. You know, we get on here and talk about different topics and things like that. But finances are so important, Keegan.
Yes.
It's such a vital part in your life. And you know, one thing that I know that is so important to you is not so much talking about money in terms of gain, but in terms of managing and stewardship.
No question.
Because I think that those are the foundation to finances. And you'll be surprised how hard it is to manage finances, because you're fighting against your desires, you're fighting against necessity, some in poverty, even the wealthy fight against their will I ever lose this? Their tight grip on it, and how it fashions them and makes them. Do you identify? How does people identify you now? So the rich and the wealthy, you know, they are dealing with finances in a different way.
Yeah,
the need may be different, but the same problems persist, so to speak. So Keegan, you know, your segment of The Corner, man. So introduce it. Tell people what it is, what you want to accomplish, and we can just kind of jump into what you want to talk about in this segment of The Corner.
Yeah, sure. So I appreciate this opportunity. The Corner, for me, when I was looking at Keegan's Corner first, but I don't want my name attached to anything because I'm going to do something stupid in the street.
But you just said it, though.
Yeah, I know, right? So we're going to change to The Corner, and what it does is it's a play on whether you are a guy or a girl working a street corner, or you're in a corner office. economics going to impact everybody.
Facts.
I don't care where you're at in life. Old, young, rich, poor, woman, man. The market is going to impact you no matter who you are and what your station in life is. So we want to talk to everybody about that.
Absolutely.
Right? And so we're going to lean into that a little bit. And so a couple of subjects I want to talk about that are going on right now, currently. And I want to talk about inflation.
Come on.
And I won't get into the weeds. I want to keep it high level, but I want to let people know that there's something going on.
Okay.
And I want to keep our eye on the ball, because if we don't, it's going to be a problem for the culture in the future. It's a problem right now, of course, but inflation is a tool.
What is inflation? So tell people, explain to people what inflation is.
So inflation, pretty in its simplest term, is the average cost of goods that we buy in this country. And so that goes up and it goes down. It goes up more often than not. And so when it goes up, they call it inflation, right? So the price of a gallon of milk this year costs more than it cost last year.
Thanks.
That's what we call inflation, right? So right now, on average,
you should have just said gas.
Yeah, yeah. I didn't want to upset nobody who's going to be watching, because everybody was going to
I was like, milk, nigga, gas. Yeah,
gas is serious right now. But right now it's over 7%.
Yeah.
Right? And so it's the highest it's been in about, they say ever. I would say about 40 years. But I would say ever, especially after the Great Depression. It was extraordinarily high as well, which led us into the Great Depression. But it's over 7%. And it's extraordinarily high right now in all things we buy.
Absolutely.
It's in everything that you actually purchase and consume. But here's what I want to talk about specifically. One thing it's impacting is housing costs.
Come on.
Because lodging is one of the most important components of what you spend your money on, right? You got to have shelter, or you're going to be what we call homeless, and so nobody wants that. Not demeaning anybody who is homeless, but lodging is a very important component to your life.
Absolutely.
So housing costs, specifically rental numbers, are up 15% over last year. That's more than double the inflation rate, right? And if you run around, I mean, it's countrywide. It's not just Charlotte. It's countrywide that rents are up. And the problem with this notion is, back in the day, you rented your apartment or your home because you could not afford to buy a home.
Yep.
Right? Nowadays, you can't afford to rent. Home ownership is the cheapest way to go, And they will tell you that you can't do it if you got a 650 credit score, you can qualify. You got money for a down payment, if you saved up, et cetera, you can make that work. And I would say you might want to take a look at that, because rental right now is just extraordinarily high across the country.
It's crazy.
And I bring this up because what's also happening now also is, to control inflation, the Fed is increasing interest rates, right, to suppress inflation. So what does that mean? Now that it costs more money to borrow money to buy the home, plus home prices are going up and up as well. You can't find a home in Charlotte under $250 in new construction.
It's crazy.
And that's before you put in granite, hardwood, and all that good stuff. So now interest rates on the rise, which means loans going to be on the rise.
Yeah.
Space of home going to be much more expensive, and rent is on the rise. How can you afford to live? So they're looking at, before, you was not supposed to spend more than 30% of your income on your housing cost, right? Because you still got to buy groceries, pay for things as well. On average, right now, people who rent across the country, about 30 to 35% of renters are spending 40 to 45% of their income on rent. So you know what that means, Steve? I can't save. I can't put money in my 401k. I can't buy life insurance if I got children.
Come on.
Right? I can't.
You can always buy life insurance, though.
You can always buy it, right?
You need life insurance.
You need it.
No question.
Trust me, I'm the insurance guy. I would say you need it. But you get to a place where those things you got to buy, that you can actually think about, should I do it compared to this right here? I don't have the extra funds. it's just no extra money left when I'm spending 40 to 45% of my income on housing.
That's great.
Right? So I want people to keep their eyes on the ball with this, because it's going to be an interesting play in the next 5 years, to where you see separate but equal is coming back to play, and economics is a tool being used to drive it.
Yes. Economic drives everything in this country.
Because the lowest population of home ownership is in the Black community. We're below Hispanics, we're below Asians, and we're below whites, right? But we have the most student debt across those particular cultures, and we have the lowest number of households making $100,000 a year across all cultures. So what I'm saying to you is, as a culture, we don't have the income necessary to afford what we want. And with inflation continuing to go up, housing costs continuing to go up, and inflation driving everything else, it's going to push us further and further away from what we used to call the middle class.
Yep.
So keep your eyes on that ball. We can go into more depth if you want to, but I want to kind of put that out there to the world, that rental expenses are on the rise. It's more than double the inflation rate. And the market will tell you, once we get prices here, get used to it, they're not coming back down. They're not coming back down. So I know people right now renting homes that are smaller than mine, and they're spending over $2,000 a month. And I don't spend more than $1,400 on my mortgage. Right? So they're spending almost $1,000 more than I am.
And double the size of the home.
Yes.
And
they have no equity.
And that's deflating.
Mm-hmm. But it's systemic. It's not just a random thing.
Nah.
There's things that put in place to make this happen over the course of time. And so just be mindful of that.
Man, that's tough. And it's tough, but there's a way out.
There is.
Strategic.
Let's talk about that.
Yeah, there's
Solutions.
a way out. Solution. It's a way out.
Yeah.
Kicking, how do people, what would you, a question for you. What would you tell people, in situations like this? How do you manage that type of situation?
Yeah.
In terms of what are some steps that they can take to help them get from this point A to point B to ultimately their destination? Yeah,
so I would say, and I'm not here to lecture anyone, trust me, because I am not the smartest guy in the room or in this industry. But I just tell you
pretty
what
smart,
I know.
Though. Don't say yourself short.
Yeah. No, I'm not. I'm just saying. So I don't want to lecture people, but I would tell you the first thing you got to do is look at your entire expense layout, and figure out, what am I spending money on today that I actually don't need? And you already did this when COVID hit. When COVID hit, you couldn't go to the restaurant, you could go to the club, you had to chill out for a second. You figured out what you could do without for a little bit of time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Put on the same hat. What can you do without for a little bit of time? Quantify it across your expenses and see what you can save money on every month. And start creating that fund, an emergency fund. That's the first thing you can do, is look at what you're already spending and what you don't need. And then what you do need, make sure you're getting the most efficient price. Not the cheapest, but the most efficient price that you can get for what you got to actually consume.
Because the quality is still there with efficiency.
Exactly. You go with the cheapest thing, you need to get high quality. So what you don't want to happen is you buy something, on the line, it fails, you got to buy it again. So if the most efficient price, not the cheapest price. That's why I'll tell you better to start at first. Look at what you're spending your money on right now and figure out what you can do without. And start putting money aside for, whether it be home ownership or to look at probably sharing. I think we don't want to talk about this, but sharing from a home ownership perspective with people that you actually know, family members, because the cost today to buy a home, you're right around Charlotte, $250 is the starting point no matter where you go. New construction, 3-bedroom, 2-bath, $250 starting point. Before you put in your granite, your hardwood, your wainscoting, crown molding, all that good stuff, backsplash, you got to have stainless steel, right?
Yeah.
Put all that stuff, it's going to be a $325 house, just like that. So if you have a cousin or a sibling, y'all just getting started, you're millennials, don't be adverse to buying a home with someone. Price it out.
Group economics.
Have it for 2-3 years. When you want to go get some raise, rent the thing out. Now you got an asset. You have to start thinking a little bit differently from that perspective. But I would say first things first, look at your expenses and see what you do not need for the next 12 months. Stop it. Save that money. What you do need, you can negotiate the price on the shop the market for. Shop the market. Get the most efficient price you can find. Start there first. Those two areas.
I like the group thing.
Yeah.
Because it's unorthodox, but it's the change we need, I believe.
It's unorthodox for us.
It is. What I'm
Everybody
saying, to our community in total, in just the American way. Mm-hmm. And I think individualism is the halo to that.
Yeah.
Because the need to achieve above. Who are you going above?
That part.
Who are you going above?
That part.
Isn't humanity in our culture and especially as Black people, it's important that we understand the power of group economics and what it could do, because you don't know how life will impact you. You might be the man yesterday, but you might not be the man tomorrow.
True. Very true.
But
Very true.
Group economics, building family wealth together, nobody has to compete about something so futile. Money, I repeat, is a tool. Money is not the goal. Money is a tool. And what happens is we do so much against each other in the name of money. When God talked about money, he didn't say Lucifer or the devil. He said, you can't serve two masters, God or mammon. Money, you can't serve it. Money is the God of this world. Make no mistake about it.
No question.
Nothing goes on. Nothing goes out without money. Money is the catalyst.
So we don't demonize money.
No, you don't demonize money, but
it's a hammer.
It is. And it's a spectrum too as well. Yeah. There's people who use money for good, but money can be used and money's, listen, bro, it causes the most uncomfortable conversations. You could talk about death is an easier conversation than money.
It is.
That's owe true. Somebody money. Go ahead and owe somebody money. Watch how that relationship alters. Watch how that friction creeps in. Because nobody really wants to talk about it, because it's uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Because our value in this material world is measured by how much money you got and how much money you don't got. Whether you say it or not, it is.
It is.
Because if you got the most money, you can get the most things. You can take part in what we call the American dream. You can be a participant in that junction. But if you don't, you can't. So people look at you differently. You ever seen the reason why some people get to talk is because they got money and fame and things of that nature. Which is fine, which they have something to say because they did achieve something. So money isn't futile. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying money has power to influence, and we have to be careful how we approach it, how we chase it, how we allow it to affect our lives. But that's why stewardship, what you're talking about.
Yes.
You're not talking about chasing it. You're not talking about coveting money. You're talking about making money your employee.
That's exactly.
Bringing money under subjection.
Yeah.
Investing, doing the right things. Listen, you can't over spiritualize your way out of bad habits.
No.
Handling money is a habit.
Yeah, because you can literally make $1 million in a year. People are like, yeah, he made $1 million. He spent $1 million in one. You're broke. Right? So, because the name of the game is net worth, not credit. That's a different conversation. We're going to get into it at a later date. But yeah, money is one of those things that you can't value like the world values it, because the world's going to make it more important than it really is. Right? I'd rather be rich in people.
Yeah.
I'd rather be rich in relationships.
Yeah.
Because money cannot get me in the circles that relationships can.
Yeah.
Plain and simple. Money can't take care of me outside of me buying me health care.
Yeah.
But outside of that, it can't love on me.
No.
Money can't console me when I'm dealing with pain. Right? So I'd rather be rich in relationships and profitable with people versus just chasing money.
This is why group economics, family economics is extremely important, because when everybody's lifted up, their human attributes, their human superpowers can take form without distraction.
No doubt.
Because debt is distraction. Those things distract you. You can't do anything. You are completely arrested in that particular space because you gotta do what you gotta do.
Yes.
You got kids, you got wife, you got a husband, you gotta do what you gotta do. So you're spending the majority of your time chasing something when we don't, and sometimes black people haven't had the opportunity to sit back and relax and watch and see where they want their life to go. See, it's handling your money right, and I learned the hard way with this. Handling your money right allows you opportunity to understand, form a plan, execute the plan, and maybe fall off and figure it out for a second.
Yeah.
You know, that's the power of doing what you're talking about right now.
Yeah.
Understanding these times and how inflation is gonna truly affect you. So hey, let's step back a little bit. Let's pipe back a little bit. I know we want to go out. I know we want to get this. I know we want to get that. And everybody, listen. Sometimes we can be a slave to our desires.
We can.
And
not sometimes.
We're a slave to our desires. My flesh wants what it wants when it wants, and sometimes I give in.
Yeah.
Sometimes I give in. You know what I mean? And I know discipline is at the heart of what God wants us to be disciplined, because the rewards will come.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The reward, your flesh wants it quick, but God can give it to you in due time.
No doubt.
There's a difference. You know, so Keaton, how do we, before we transition, man, just what would you encourage people, you know, wrapping up this segment of The Corner, what would you encourage people to do, you know, in this case of inflation and a potential war and just changes that's happening? What can sustain us through all of the changes like COVID and all of these things that we just been through over these last 2 to 3 years? You know, how can we steady ourselves to make sure that we're increasing our net worth and that we are being stewards? What are some principles that you want to leave us with? Well,
I would say, and I go by numbers. I know some people don't trust what they're given as far as numbers, so I respect that, but I go by what I read as far as numbers go. So when I think about inflation happens every year.
Absolutely.
But it averages between 1% to 3%, 3% at the height. So where we're at right now is unprecedented, right? What I would tell you is whenever you have inflation 3% over the course of a year, prices don't go back down. They stay where they're at. So where we're at right now, you're not going to go back to where it was before. So forget about that. So you got to figure out how you utilize what you got right now. And guess what? I haven't heard nobody say they got a 7% raise, right? So your money is not keeping pace with inflation right now.
Wow.
Right? So I would suggest we look at, and I know it's difficult to talk about, but look at, hey, I can no longer be frivolous with what I'm spending my money on. I got to look at my expenses and say, okay, what's a need versus what's a desire? And I got to get that in line, because I'm telling you, prices are not going to go back down. This is not no blip in the market. This is where it's at. And once the owners get you used to spending money at this particular, they're not going back. That's profit for them. Right? So, you know, we were talking to Jay at the meeting. He was like, you know, particle board, a sheet of that used to cost $15 to $18 a sheet. Now it's running $45. The labor costs ain't go up, right? And it ain't going to go back down unless somebody says you got to put it back down for a certain reason. But the majority of prices on certain products are not going back down. So I would suggest we get our spending habits in order, because that's what you control. Absolutely. You don't control inflation, but you do control where you spend your dollars at and what you spend your dollars on. So I would suggest we all look, and this includes myself. Absolutely. Look at what you're spending your money on. Make sure I'm not doing something frivolous, because I got to make sure that if it gets to a point where I have to do something different, I can pivot.
And that's okay.
And that's when you operate lean, you can be very athletic with how you move.
Absolutely.
When you have bloat, in your spending, you have a lot of unnecessary stuff. It's hard to be.
It is
maneuvering. It's hard to maneuver.
And just talking, and there's a great transition talking about being bloated and having other stuff there. Sometimes that other stuff can be ego.
Trust a lot of it, yes, sir.
Ego.
I don't like where this is going, but okay.
It can be, just not being aware. Ego tries to convince us that we need to get something that we already possess. We're complete, Keegan. And ego tries to convince you that you need to be something that you already are.
Okay. I'm going to digest that.
Ego is tricky because you need it sometimes. Sometimes it feels like your savior and your hero. Ego and pride can go hand in hand. Attributes. I think attributes are not good or evil. I think they are how you use them. Pride. Sometimes you need your pride.
Yes.
Sometimes you need your pride. You need your dignity. Somebody doing you wrong, somebody mistreating you, somebody disrespecting you, somebody treating you not to the standard that you set for yourself. I think that's when you tighten that belt with pride a little bit, and you realize who the fuck you are, and you get the fuck out of there.
Yeah.
You don't let nobody treat you like that, and I think pride serves you. That and having pride in who you are and what God created. See, Lucifer had the attributes of pride.
Yeah.
But he kept consuming. He kept consuming. He kept consuming till he thought he was God. That's when pride turns on you.
He wanted that mantle, yes,
when
sir.
you know you're wrong, Keegan, get off your pride. You did it, Keegan. You're guilty.
Yeah.
Just say you're guilty.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm with you.
Everything is a double-edged sword. And ego convinces you that you need more than what you don't. Pride, you can tighten your belt sometimes. Pride is not necessarily always a bad thing.
No, it's not.
You know what I mean? But I think our ego sometimes, and it becomes his greatest challenge in life. What you want versus what you need, Keegan. That's a dichotomy.
It is.
You battle that every day. Are you hearing the voice of God, or are you hearing the voice of your ego? Are you edging God out? Because they can both. Your ego can sound sweet to you. Your ego can make sense, and sometimes your ego is right.
Your ego helps you justify things.
It does.
Yeah, you could be dead wrong. You figure out a way to rationalize that thing.
We do.
And the world will also tell you that you can't be wrong about anything, right? Once you put it out there, you can never come back and say, you know what, I might have had that one wrong. Nah, you can't. You got to double down. You got to triple down, and we don't do that anymore. No. But the positive parts of pride, there's branches. Pride can lead to conviction.
It can. About
standing firm on something you believe in, you need to stand firm on. Pride can leave you being happy for your children when they accomplish something. I'm
absolutely.
Proud of you, son.
Being proud. Absolutely.
Yeah. So pride has some positive branches to it. It's in those negative spaces where it impacts other people negatively.
Absolutely.
It impacts you negatively because you wanted to move a certain way and you probably shouldn't have. So it's a balance.
It is.
It's a balance. But I think and it's easy for me to say this, but I do walk in faith. When you let God lead,
come on, that's good.
It helps you put that kind of thing down as far as pride go, because it's no longer about you, right? You're walking in a way that you're being led, and you can put the thing down. It's okay to be wrong.
It is.
It's okay, because to me, being wrong is just the tuition you pay to learn something.
It is.
Right? So it's okay. You're not going to lose a kidney.
Yeah.
If you admit you're wrong.
But you learn so much in wrong. Like if you know that you're wrong and you start to learn why you're wrong, that's something that's another piece of knowledge that you have you gathered for yourself.
Yes.
That's an infinity stone, bro.
Yeah.
It is.
No doubt.
Because it gives you it builds Thanos, you know what the thing that Thanos was going for, his whole mantra, misguided, whatever it was balance.
Yeah.
And that's what your infinity stones, when you're wrong, gives you balance, gives you perspective, Keegan. Having perspective, everything, things, we measure right and wrong sometimes. And I get it, because you need checks and balances.
Yeah.
You need things to be definitive sometimes. You need to, if you're in a civilized place, you need to make sure you have order so things don't get out of. Listen, bro, things can get out of hand quick.
Very quick.
They can get out of hand
very quick.
Very quick. So, I understand when you're looking at how. So let me go back to this. I'm gonna go to ego for a second.
Sure.
Because I want because I just thought of something. I was thinking about how my ego has subtly misplaced I misplaced myself by losing blessings because of my ego. And what I mean by that, I misplaced myself. I could not get out of my own way.
Okay.
I was so stuck in trying to be right. It was, and Keegan, I was right. That's why I had a long pause.
So you
don't
have ego right now, but I'm listening.
I was right, Keegan. That was the problem. See, being right doesn't make the situation right.
Or better.
Yeah. Just because you're right, her perspective, his perspective, it's still their perspective.
Yeah.
It didn't change how they felt about it just because, even if the facts are right, even if it happened, sometimes you still got to take the L. Sometimes you have to let your pride down for the atmosphere that you're trying to cultivate to continue to formulate. Yeah.
Or sometimes, Steve, there's no right or wrong.
That's good.
You just want to think you're right. But some things are just, they are what they are. To your point about perspective. Perspective is not about right or wrong. You're not talking about facts. It's about what this person experienced. That's why you have empathy.
Absolutely.
Can I put myself in your shoes and understand? Because I can be right over here, but until I put those shoes on, I can't see what you saw or experience what you experienced. And there could be some legitimate reasons why you think the way you do about a subject, move the way you do about a situation. But I don't know that because I'm not in your head, right? So that's why you got to have empathy. So sometimes it's not even about being right or wrong. You just create the definition for yourself because you want to be right.
And pride is all in that.
Yeah, hell yeah. Man, pride and ego.
Man, listen, I tell you, bro, trying to be right. And I think it's overconsumption. Too much of anything is not good.
True.
You need balance. You need to realize, and that's a hard thing for men. It's a hard thing for women. It's a hard thing for children, especially. They want what they want. They think they're right about everything.
Question for you about that.
Okay.
Do you think we argue the frivolous things of life and not talk about the important things of life?
I think sometimes the important things are too heavy. I think they have too many layers, so we opt for the frivolous things. Like I got into an argument with my wife the other day about milk. Milk was the foundation of what we got onto it with, and it blew up into an argument over milk. It was so stupid. But that's what married couples, that's the, because sometimes, when you're married and you live with somebody and you're going through issues or you're dealing with things, sometimes the issue that you really need to talk about, it festers so much that it becomes so big that you don't want to chop that tree down.
Gotcha.
Because think about it, when you're married and you're with somebody, whether you're married in a relationship, whatever it is, and you live with somebody, it's just this day-to-day monotony. It's over. And if you got kids, it's day-to-day monotony over and over again. So what ends up happening is the issue festers. It gets bigger and it gets bigger because you don't have time to solve it. Going back to the corner and what you talk about having finances together, that's why it's such a foundation, because things like when you don't have to worry about providing in that way, sometimes it becomes a little bit easier. That's why I understand why people chase money and put money at the forefront. That's why I understand how money can become a god easily, because it does provide comfort. it allows you to live out loud. Just live. That's why we see white people, they just live. Listen, they just out there. They carefree. You know what I mean? Because they've always been able to live. You know, but we haven't had that. But, you know, man, that's a good podcast, Keegan. I'm enjoying this, man. It's a blessing to be able to, you know, sit on here and commune with my brothers and brothers that's been on the podcast and us building this platform, man, and lowering our egos and bringing these two powers together, these five powers together, and these successful men in their own rights to come together, man. I think, you know, there's ego, and then there's the antithesis to ego, and that's love, that's respect, that's kindness. You know, that's letting go of control. That's what ego, letting go of control. That's hard because you don't know where you're going to end up. Some people, you know, were violated as children because they didn't have control. So when they get older, you know, nobody can have control.
Yeah, you never
they practice independence versus interdependence. Yeah. So you don't practice interdependence, you never know how to lean on somebody.
True.
You never understand the art of trusting. You know what I mean? Because it's a hard way to trust somebody, Keegan.
It is.
You got to drop your ego. You got to drop your pride. And this is why you can't live in right and wrong, because when you live in right and wrong, Keegan, you judge constantly.
Yeah.
You don't trust that person because that's why you got to, I believe when you fall for somebody, their intentions jump off the page to you. Their intentions, who they are, not so much of what they can do for you, but their intentions. I think people more so, we got to give each other credit because we fall in love with intentions. When you get close to somebody and you commune with somebody, you fall in love with their intentions, Keegan. And that's important.
Okay.
And you see somebody and they see you.
I hear you. I follow you. I think that the issue, though, is you talk about right or wrong. Right or wrong is about wins and losses. And if you're going to be in my opinion, in a relationship with anybody, it can't be about wins and losses.
Come on.
Right? It can't be. If we're going to work together to go somewhere,
absolutely,
it can't be about I'm right, you're wrong, I'm right, et cetera, et cetera. We have to work towards a North Star.
Absolutely. Come on.
And wins and losses, we win. Not I win, you lose, or you win, I lose. We win or we learn, not lose.
Come on, that's good.
You want to, going back to Nelson Mandela, if either I win or I learn, I never lose.
Absolutely.
But when you're working on that individuality, yeah, it's going to be some losses involved because you're not leveraging your biggest strength, and that's the other person you have in your life that can help you move. Where you don't have strength, they got strength. When you don't have ideas, they have ideas. When you don't have connections, they have connections. So leverage people around you. But it can't be about wins and losses. It can't be about right or wrong. It has to be about relationship, right? And so even if you think you're right, is it worth the argument? Is it worth the debate? Was being right about milk worth the debate?
and I'll say this, and that's why, listen, check this out, Keegan. That's why perspective is your pivot. It allows you to pivot. Think about it.
Yeah.
Because when you convicted in your right or you're wrong, when you can't get out of it, Keegan, see, when you live in perspective, you can always choose the most advantageous thing for you and your family and whoever you're dealing with. Because you take out your feelings. Perspective is taking out your feelings, saying, okay, what is the proper thing to do that will benefit me, said family, said friend, in the situation?
Yeah.
Perspective allows you to understand. It doesn't negate whether there's a right or wrong. It doesn't say right or wrong doesn't exist. It say, is right or wrong important? Can right or wrong move this situation to the place it needs to be? God will use anything for purpose.
Yes, he will.
We limit God on what he can use.
Yeah, we do.
God can use anything for purpose.
Yeah, we don't give him room. That's true. I mean, even talk about the frivolous. We're in the barbershop today talking about, who's the greatest. And we're sitting here talking about who's the greatest basketball player ever and cannibalizing our own people. We're not just saying, hell, we have some great black athletes we can all celebrate, right? We want to argue the frivolousness about who's the best instead of just saying they are all great, and talk about how they was great in their particular era.
And that's why I was trying to point out. We was talking about before we got on camera the art of basketball, the art of not just basketball, just sports in general. And sometimes when you add competition in there, it's fun, it's drama, we love it, it draws us, but we lose the perspective on like, look at these extraordinary beings being able to do this, contorting their bodies, doing this stuff like acrobatics. Like it's amazing. And I think so many things have gotten caught into sports, got caught so much drama, so many things that has surrounded the sport that it's got us out of whack a little bit, man.
Just like
and that's
life.
why I think that we can't ultimately appreciate the true art and skill of these guys, and we have to compare them on comparison to Thief of Joy. We talked about it on the last episode.
It is.
And I think in a society like black people who we struggle economically as totality, and in our totality, we struggle financially. You know, we can't compare it each other.
We shouldn't.
We can't. It's critical that we don't.
Yeah,
because now we're in a state that it, like you talked about, by 2053, our median net worth would be zero. If we continue down this pathway. That's why it's important that we work together. That's why it's important going with the theme of ego, that we let down our ego and say it doesn't matter if you're balling or I'm balling. If I don't win, you don't win. If you don't win, I don't win. That's how these things work. We're not stunting on each other. We're stunting with each other. That's the response we have to have to each other, Keegan.
No question.
That's the move. That's the ultimate of what we have to do, because if we don't do that, then what do we become? Who do we become? Are we no better than our oppressor if we oppress each other?
True.
What is our North Star as a collective? I know individually I can go out here and be great and get mines and say, look at me. But that leads me back to my ego. I ultimately don't gain. I gain nothing. I get nothing. Me just making it. Me just saying I'm smart. Look at me. What about the people who need the information I have that they're not privy to? Yeah, I know we got our digital drug. I get it. We got our digital drug. I get it. It's fine. Listen, I get it. Everybody got access to an iPhone. Nobody's off the hook. Everybody can make their own decision, their own choice. I get it. I'm not taking nobody that. But those to whom much is given, much is required.
I got you.
If you got, give. I'm not saying give out of being blind. I'm not saying be blind Bartimaeus. I'm not saying doing that. I'm not saying be blind. I'm saying your mission in life. The reason why God put us here together, guys, is because there was a purpose for us to work together, to figure out time, to figure out why we're here to begin with, to figure out the nuances of this life, to figure out why we go through things. That's why you could have a kidney stone and I can have one too. And we can say, oh, that hurt. And we can relate to each other. And we can, that is the only healthy time for us to trauma bond. Any other time we won't be trauma bonded. But we're here for a reason. And it's important that we understand the reason why we're here. And there's, Keegan, you need people. Don't let your ego fool you and make you believe that you can do it by yourself. I don't care how tired you are of how somebody did you wrong. I get it. I empathize with you. I really, really do. But time doesn't care. It doesn't stop. So neither should you. Don't let anybody compromise your journey. Your journey's yours. Your journey belongs to you. If you give it to somebody, then what becomes of you? You share it with people. You don't let people consume it. You don't let people talk you out of the steps that God is ordering for your life.
Can't.
Ego makes you believe that you can do it. See, when you trust in God, Keegan, it's hard to trust God. Man, Keegan, I can't tell you how hard it is because I want to do it. Ego been telling me so long that you did this, Steve. You did this. This was you. We get promoted at our jobs. This was you. Look at all your hard work. We thank God as a consolation prize on our Instagram post.
Well, I guess if you do that, I question your faith from the beginning, and that's not me being judgmental or critical, but it's hard to ignore blessings in your life when you walk with God because you know what to look for and you know what to call a blessing, right? So, but something you said earlier as a question you posed was, what is our North Star? And because the black culture is such a diverse culture, it won't be one North Star for the entire culture. Outside, I think the one thing we can look at is, has the culture lifted itself up? That's it. But I think you got to look at small groups, small populations within the culture.
Absolutely.
Right? And say, okay, do we have alignment? Like me and you have alignment about where we want to go with certain things.
Absolutely.
So we're going to connect, we're going to leverage our circles of influence around us, right? You're going to find that across the entire black spectrum. And it won't be the same across the entire spectrum. And that's okay. And so we got to be okay with that. Because the North Star for the entire culture would not be the same thing for everybody in the culture. It's just too diverse. And so it's the only thing I can say with that is, has the entire culture lifted itself up? That's a critical thing.
Yeah.
We got to look at how do we do that? How do we play our part in that particular endeavor?
Yeah.
Because it's important.
It is. And I think a component to that is understanding that we all, in dealing with group economics, kind of going back to that, is we all use each other. And I want people to know that that's okay to use somebody. It's okay to use somebody. The difference is you don't need to abuse somebody. Abuse. Quid pro quo is good.
Yeah.
We understand. It's a business relationship.
Mm-hmm.
You get this, I get that. I get this, I get that.
Yeah.
We have an understanding about that. But when you start abusing people, that means you're getting and I'm not. That's greed coming into play.
Yeah.
Gluttony coming into play. You're taking more. We got to be careful with that. We got to understand. We can't be afraid to, if we're doing group economics and we're helping each other out, we can't be afraid to hold each other accountable. We all have tendencies. We all have greedy tendencies to want more because we're wired for ambition, Keegan. And ambition, oh my God. Ambition, that's tricky.
It's not a bad thing.
Ambition is not a bad thing, but it's a tricky thing.
Yeah.
Gladiator, Gladiator. The movie Gladiator, one of my favorite movies of all time. Who was the kid? What was his name?
I can't remember.
I know Maximus. I can't remember his name, but the son, the father of Rome wanted Maximus to lead Rome because he seen the pride in his son, that his son was selfish. He wasn't what a king needed to be. So he seen Maximus as the son he never had. But when I look at the son, he was filled with pride.
You know what's funny about that story? And I can't I remember the movie I watched, but I can't remember the exact details of that, what you're just saying. But we'll blame the son for being selfish. Did the dad miss something though?
Ooh, that's good. I ain't think about that part though with Gladiator.
You talk about the prodigal son.
Well, I think the son, when he was talking to the daughter at the end, I think he did explain that he failed his son.
There you go.
And I think he knew. So I'm not blaming him, but what that created when he understood that the dad wanted Maximus, his ambition drove him to a dark place.
But the question becomes, what got missed when that young man was growing up to where ambition ran wild when he became an adult, right? And that's where your parents give you some boundaries, because I think we always say the son is X, Y, and Z. We forget he had parents. Of course, they didn't die or they're not around. That's one thing. But I think to your point about responsibility and ego, right? As parents, can we get our kids and put our arms around them and say, you know what? Let me help you from day one. You start pouring into them from day one so that when they get up, that doesn't happen. Now, I'm not saying some kids are just wired a certain way.
He was sleeping with his sister,
some just psychopathic.
This nigga wanted his sister, so he was a little different.
So I get that. But a lot of times we want to say that this person or this kid is excellent. You forget that we talk about unresolved trauma.
Yeah.
You don't know what people been through.
You don't.
Right? We just look at, can we scrutinize his behavior, and that in and of itself is ego.
Yeah.
Right? Because I get the judgment only means I can put you down here and I can come up here.
Yeah. You're projecting when you judge.
Yeah, exactly. And what happens is no one got shorter and you didn't get taller, right? But we do that. And I bring this up because a lot of times we'll say this person is X, Y, and Z when we forget, did something happen that made them that way? We're just judging the current product that we see in the street.
And I'll say this about judgment. Judgment doesn't bring about accountability. It doesn't.
Mm-hmm. No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't.
Judgment doesn't bring about accountability. No. It brings about resentment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's all judgment does. You can be absolutely correct about the person you're talking about because they feel like you're judging them. It won't get through.
No, it won't. No, it
You've wasted your time.
Well, you don't have the right to judge either, right?
You don't.
You know, and I'm not going to get into the spiritual side of it, but the reality is you don't have a way to condemn anybody.
But discernment does. It brings about accountability.
In you? In the person,
yeah. In the person, yeah. You can discern things. When people have to know you love them before you discern something about their life.
That's fair.
Stop. You coming up just saying stuff to people. They're not receiving that. It's not effective.
But isn't that ego?
Yeah, that's ego. That's what I'm saying. Pipe back. Mm-hmm. If you want to be a part of, you want to be an accountability partner to somebody, you need to understand who they are. Mm-hmm. You need to understand why they make the mistakes they make, why they make the missteps they make. And that's you spending time with that person. You can't expect all that access in a short amount of time. You got to work for access with people.
True.
That's the problem. We give too much access to people. You let people in the spots that's sensitive and vulnerable that you don't yet know about your own self, but you let somebody else in, then they come in and confuse you even more. You got to guard your space. It doesn't mean you put a fence up. You can open the fence. You can open the fence, Keegan. It's cool. But there's a fence up. Because if you get out of pocket, you're going out, my boy. You done. I wanted to say this about Gladiator. Are you not entertained?
Oh, my God.
Is that not why you're here? I always wanted to say that. That's my favorite movie, though, man. But ego.
Great line, too.
It is, man. But ego, man, this is good. Man, I appreciate you, brother.
Likewise, man.
This is good, man. But just wrapping up, man, like ego puts us in compromising positions. It puts us in positions of despair because it's tricky, it's cunning. It can work for you, but it can work against you. The problem is you don't know when it's working against you because it satisfies your wants while ignoring your needs. That's what your ego does because ego just wants to consume. Ego is a friend to your flesh.
It is.
It just wants more. It wants more. And you got to be careful because the more you go after, the more you got to handle. Do you have the capacity to handle the things that you want? So you got it. That's a real thing, Keegan. Do you have the capacity to handle the things you want?
You're talking about stewardship.
Absolutely. See, God going to provide the things you need by via you being this child. But the things you desire, the desires of your heart, you got to manage your blessings. It ain't just about getting. It's about understanding that stewardship, Keegan. I failed miserably at that. I took it for granted. I'm not talking to you out of just saying it. This ain't motivational.
Yeah.
This is experience. This is living through. See, when you live through, you find perspective.
And I have too.
Yeah. When you live through, you find perspective.
Yeah.
See, that's when the choice is made when you're going through your fire. Do you want to dissolve or do you want to come out like gold? You have a choice.
I got you. No, I failed as well, in those areas of my life also, financial, et cetera. And I'll tell you, the learning was some simple things, never outlive your means.
Come on.
Right? And the one thing that society tells you is go get the bag.
Come on.
Right? And there's you can watch a lot of podcasts that tell you and show you how to go and make money.
Come on.
Very few show you how to protect the assets you get.
Come on. That's good.
Right?
That's good.
And that's where I kind of focus at. And I bring this up because it's not sexy. Right? Getting money is sexy, but protecting what you get is not sexy. but it's a requirement because you can go get everything you want to get, but if you don't structure it the right way, your kids will not see it.
And that's important.
Or they'll see very, very little of it because of other things are going to take it from you.
And this is what.
And so I will also say that's how ego comes into play.
That's what I was just about to say. This is what ego comes into play.
Because ego, when you shed ego, now I'm making decisions about everybody else in my life.
Now your North Star becomes clear. Mm-hmm. Now the clouds are there, but you still can see the sun. Mm-hmm. When you let ego go, because you know where you're going, ego pit stops. Yeah. I think I'm right. Let me stop over here. No, hold on, I'm right. No. When you let ego go, you let God in control.
True.
Because you're not edging God out at that point. And that's why, man, it's important, man, to just get to know who you are, to get to understand who you are, because you don't need ego in those circumstances because you know who you are. You don't have to compare yourself. You don't have to try to keep up with the Joneses. Let your life, let your seasons happen naturally. Yeah. Let your seasons happen naturally. If you do not let your season happen naturally and you try to control it, then you're done.
And it's okay to be in a down season.
It is.
It really is okay.
A learning season.
Yeah.
A learning season.
It really is okay to be in a down season where you're learning, you're going through education, or you're just letting the dust settle. It's okay.
That's good.
It's okay.
That's good.
Because you can get so caught up in the rat race, you'll forget what you're even running after. You're only chasing what everybody else is chasing.
Absolutely.
You don't run your own race. It's okay to chill out for a little bit. It's okay. I'm not saying you're going to take life, but just take 6-12 months off just to kind of chill and think about, okay, where am I at and where I want to be, right? In all aspects of your life, spiritually, emotionally, physically, financially, relationally, wherever you're looking at as far as your health is concerned in those areas, think about where you want to be and where you're at. It's okay to take a step back and say, I'm going to chill for a second and work this thing out. It's okay to be in a down season.
You know what? One of the things that social media, one of the powers of social media is it creates a situation where you're emotionally charged.
Of course. That's the whole goal.
Where you see something that you don't really want, but it becomes a part of your desire.
Yeah. It activates and amplifies.
It does. Yeah. So now you're rushing out of a season that you're not yet fully matured in.
Yeah, true.
So you're trying to go here when you're still being pruned and prodded in this season, but you're trying to go all the way over here. And those tendencies, social media has so many different facets. That's why I call my phone my digital drug. It is.
Yes, no
doubt. It gives me access to the thing that distracts me, but it also helps me. That's a pickle, right?
It is.
This is our future, and we got to have it. But right now, it's distracting a way of life that we see as right. So, it's just another subject. I ain't going to go into all that. I ain't going to all that, But, man, listen, this was a fucking dope pod. I love this shit. I do. You know what I mean, man? It's a release for me. And I said it last pod. I did, man. This is really a release for me, man. Find something you love. Everything you love don't always have to produce at a rate that gets you a material result. That comes with excellence. Money is only an issue in the absence of value. You create the value, the money comes. I promise you that. Quality, excellence, respect, integrity, those things. Money's attracted to those things. Money's not attracted to scamming and bullshit, backbiting, lying. Money's attracted to the things that God has given us to execute here. And that's our love for one another. That was the Deep Service Podcast. And we're gone. You guys make sure you subscribe on YouTube.